Hey everyone, this is Chris from the GameBrew podcast. Before we get to the show, I'd like to personally thank each and every one of you for listening. It means the world to us. If you'd like to support us, make sure you're following us on all the social medias that the kids talk about these days, like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or Spotify. If you want to get a little crazy, we'd love to see some reviews from you on iTunes also. If you want to feel good about donating to some great causes, helping out your favorite podcast, that's us, by the way, and getting some awesome games, don't forget to head over to Humble Bundle using the link bit.ly/GameBrew and get your game on. Well, that's enough from me. On with the show.
Imagination is the essence of discovery. And welcome to episode 68 of the GameBrew podcast. I am your host, Ian Winston Richard, and today I'm joined by Allison Mercy Van de Vender.
I'll be watching over you.
Will Soldier 76 Shell.
I've got you in my sights.
Chris Roadhog Wrights.
I'm a one-man apocalypse.
And Dan Reaper Rots.
Death walks among you.
On the first half of the podcast, we'll look back on BlizzCon 2019, and in the second half, we'll discuss how the goals of companies in the gaming verse influence our enjoyment of games. But first, it's time for a beer.
Yeah.
Oh no, this needs to be one of your patented. It's time for a beer.
But first, it's time for a cidre. Chris, what are we drinking this week?
Oh yeah, it's Stella Artois Cider. It tastes like apples.
Why are we drinking
It's got
it?
alcohol. Why are we drinking it, Allison?
Because the day this podcast releases today, if you're listening to it on the first day, what day is that, guys? November...
It's November 18th.
18th! Yay!
Today is
I
November
should have
18th.
planned better. It is National Apple Cider Day.
National Apple Cider Day.
Apple Cider Day.
It's on the sweet side.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit of like a medium to medium dry finish, but really pretty sweet. Not a whole lot of alcohol. You know how sometimes you get kind of that like musty flavor with a cider, or that like olivey flavor sometimes? There's none of that, which is really
I don't
nice.
get
It's
olives
very...
ever from cider.
I'm sorry.
I get olives from cider.
Musty ciders?
Yeah,
What
like-
are you drinking that has a musty?
Crispin.
What?
Crispin has like a musty,
Oh yeah, Crispin
olivey
totally
thing.
has that.
Okay.
It's like they make it out of like really hardy red apples. So
Yeah,
it's like
okay.
this seems like it's a little bit. It's a lighter apple. Like hey,
It's a lighter apple.
this is a
This
great
apple didn't eat its vegetables.
I'm really excited that I can drink this with you guys for the first
Yeah,
time.
this
Like,
is
Also,
fun. Allison's part
also
of the
it's
team.
it's naturally gluten free, so there's no glutes in this.
There's no
Well, hot
glutes.
damn.
Not
or
a
hops.
single glute.
You can't
I
say
don't know,
that
I
about
kinda
me.
like
I got
glutes.
some nice glutes.
It tastes like a little juice box juicy juice apple,
Does.
It
but
does.
the adult version.
The adult version.
Yeah,
So-
this will get you hammered real quick because of all that sugar.
They
Fun?
should include
Oh,
a
yeah.
straw with that.
They really should.
That would be hilarious. That would be great. But like, make it like a Capri Sun, so you have to jam it in the side.
Yes.
Yeah,
It breaks like 3 times.
So it's a pouch.
I've
Yeah,
been
they should sell alcohol in those pouches.
Yeah,
Yeah,
people
they
would get super nostalgic.
They have-
That would be good.
Also, I think
Let's
that
make GameBrew alcohol and put it in pouches and make a ton of money.
I feel like that's a little bit bad for kids because
We
they
would
look at it and be
totally
like,
get
"Hey,
called
They
out
have,
for
like-
targeting children.
They have like those tiny wine juice boxes already
they
like
do.
that.
They do.
So
Oh,
It's like a
okay.
Franzia move. We could play Slap the Mini Bag.
Ian, I play that every Friday night by myself." Oh, hey, look,
right.
someone's giving me a high five from over here. I don't know. I want to tell you guys. I bought some of these like a few weeks ago, and I just kind of kept drinking them as an easy thing. Like, or if I have friends over, they really like them too because they're easy to drink. It's not super high alcohol content.
Yeah.
It's kind of sweet, makes you feel nice.
Yep. Yeah, it's a very good social beverage. This is something you could show up to a party to with and be appreciated for, which is good. So what have we been up to this week? Been doing anything fun? Anybody start anything fun? New stuff?
Oh,
I
yeah.
did.
I
But I'll let Will go first.
I started. I got this new game, and so the premise of it.
God damn
I'm
it!
gonna
If you
describe-
start describing Counter-Strike, I'm gonna throw something
No,
at
I'm
you.
gonna describe it, and I want to see if you guys can guess what it is. the premise of the game, it's a neat design. It can be really frustrating at first, but the premise of the game is you play online and there are guns and you're shooting people and stuff. But
We said no
the
Counter-Strike.
the goal is to insult the other players' mothers as creatively
That's
as
Call of Duty.
possible.
I thought it was
like Modern
Halo.
Warfare. Yeah.
Sounds like Halo.
It's totally. I totally got Modern Warfare, the new one. Oh, it's so good.
Is
I
it?
cannot tell you like. And this sounds really silly, and it goes against like a lot of things, but there is something refreshing about being back in that environment where everyone's just like bitchy about
You're like
everything.
Baron's chat.
It's
You know,
in the
It brings
gameplay.
you back to a simpler time when everyone fucked your mother and
Yeah.
Pretty much. It's
For
really
this
good. It's
show.
nostalgic
Allison, what
in a
were you
lot
gonna
of
say?
ways.
There is something to be said for that because I played a lot of Call of Duty, and it was back when I hung out with Will when he lived here. That was when I was playing it all the time, and I was so quick-witted and sharp-tongued, and I felt like intelligent in conversations because I was ready to go with like curse words that I didn't even know existed. They didn't exist before I said them. Like I was on it, but yeah, I don't have that anymore.
No,
Well,
no.
you know, the
too
tool
nice.
is out there to sharp. Will, is you're obviously having a good time. How similar is it to OG Modern Warfare?
It's similar enough to where you can pick it up. I haven't played Call of Duty in several generations now, and I mean, I picked it right back up. Had no issues with it. I will say, I picked it up on console, and I have it set to regular mode, and it is really difficult. And they did not that targeting's difficult; it's environmentally difficult. Everything really blends in, and you have to pay attention. Like bad guys aren't naturally highlighted or anything to help you shoot at them. They look and blend the same as your own team, and civilians. So you really have to be like careful with the way you aim and pay attention to the environment. And I really like that. But had I known that ahead of time, I probably would have picked this up for PC so I could have that sort of micro control with the mouse that I prefer to have with shooters.
Sure.
That being said, I really appreciate that attention to detail. The cinematic experience is excellent in the campaign. It is, if you haven't played in several generations, it's really, really well done, very theatrical, very engaging, and it keeps in true Call of Duty fashion, it keeps the momentum going. You're not really bored, and you're going to play for 2 or 3 hours before you even realize what you've done.
Great. That's awesome. Dan, what about you?
It surprised me. I still have Xbox Game Pass. So
It's worth it.
I mean, for right now, it is because I'm playing a lot of different things. But the one I want to talk about is The Outer Worlds, like the Bethesda Obsidian.
Wannabe.
Yeah, it's kind of like Fallout, but it's not Fallout.
Yeah, I want to know about this.
Yeah, it's New Vegas, but in space.
Kind of.
Okay.
It's like the story is you were a colonist. There's like this other world that they're sending people to, and you're supposed to colonize it. And you're part of this ship called the Hope. And as it goes to this planet, its warp drive fails, and you're 76 years behind when you're supposed to get there, or like
76.
or something like that. I forget exactly how long it is. But you get there way later than you're supposed to, and there's no room for the people. So they just kind of keep you in this holding pattern outside of the actual planet until eventually everyone forgets that the ship is there, and it's kind of becomes this legend, like that the Hope isn't really there. It's just like, oh yeah, there's all those colonists stuck on the Hope.
There's no hope.
Yeah. And then the scientist finds you, and then Fallout sort of character creation screen happens, and you make your person, and then you get launched down to this planet because he needs you to kind of fix a spaceship, meet a space guy, and be friends, and kind of help finish his research and save the rest of the colonists on the Hope.
Dan, is this game funny? Is it a chuckler? Does it tickle you?
It's interesting. There are some funny-ish parts to it so far. I think it's kind of interesting because we're kind of used to like Fallout 3, Fallout 4, Fallout 76, and all of those games were very shootery games, right?
Yeah.
So The Outer Worlds kind of goes back to the thing that made Fallout kind of interesting, is that it's more RPG than shooter, whereas kind of Fallout 4 was more shooter than RPG.
Sure.
If that makes any sense. Because, so like, for instance, there was one point in this game, not really any spoilers, where I got to a point where they're like, oh, hey, you need to go to this place and get this thing. Now, the problem is there's a bunch of raiders back there, and they're pretty violent. They really don't let anyone through. So you got to be careful. And I was like, okay, so either I'm gonna have to figure it out. So I went to this place, and the first thing that I did was like I talked to the guy who was there. He was like, hey, you can't go in here. You're an outsider. And then one of the things that I could do so many things. I could persuade him that I was trying to join his gang. I could lie to him and say, hey, I'm not here to cause any trouble.
You can hit him with a bat.
Or, yeah, you could just say, fuck you, I'm going to come in here and then just start shooting up the place.
Yeah.
But instead, I paid him 450 credits, and he was just like, oh, cool, man. Yeah, it's in the back, and the thing that I needed. So I just went and got it. But I also could see all the things I could have gotten or like looted because if I had done it. So I was a little like, dang, I could have done that. But it's very interesting because you can actually make a lot of choices in this game that affect how you play the game.
Yeah, I've also heard that it's pretty respectful of your time in terms of like it's not a 100 hours to completion game unless you're going to 100% it. It's like you could probably get through the main story in 15, 20 hours.
Yeah, something like I think I've spent like I got a bubble in my throat. Excuse me. I think I've spent maybe like 5 or 6 hours on it, and I finished like the first world area that I was in, and that was like doing everything, and then I moved on to the next area, and I'm doing that. But I can see how it's like there's not a huge story, and you can play it through. You can play it through so many different ways. Like each situation has so many different branches that could go off. Like if you do one thing, and then it says, oh, I could do I could be the bad guy or the good guy or the middle guy. But if you pick the bad guy, you could also do some good options from there, or some medium options, or some bad options. Or if you pick the good guy, you could do some bad or some medium, some good options from there. It's this crazy branching tree. They did a really good job.
That's
and like
cool.
all the skills that you pick are good because it's more RPG based. So like your persuade skill's really high. You can really talk somebody into doing something for you. It's pretty neat.
Nice.
Did you do you feel like going back to the time of it, like do you feel like you're getting your like are you satisfied with the amount of time you're able to spend on the planet, or is it spending too much time or too little, or like do you wish there was more?
So far, I think it's about appropriate. Like on the first world, because I've beaten the first kind of world-ish area, and then I'm on to the second one now. And I think the time that I spent there was good. Like I wouldn't want to spend any more time on that place. Like I feel like I explored everything I needed to, and then I'm going on to the next one, which is a little bit different. Yeah, it's pretty. I definitely recommend it if you like to like Fallout New Vegas or you like just RPG games, not necessarily shooters in general, because the shooting isn't amazing. It's okay, but more so like the RPG elements are really cool. I definitely recommend it.
Nice. Yeah. Thanks for diving in on that. Allison, what about you?
I got a Switch.
Yay! It's Switchmas for Allison.
I got it early because I'm visiting Texas, so Evan and his mom got it for me.
That's great.
Yeah, I've been wanting it for a really long time, so I guess this was just the "we want you to have it" moment.
We want you to have it moment.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was never going to buy it for myself as much as I wanted it. I haven't played much, just a little bit of Breath of the Wild. That's it.
How's the like? How do you feel about the form and function of the Switch? I think we all know we have talked about Breath of the Wild enough, but like the actual Switch itself, how does it feel?
I really like it as a portable device. I have a gut feeling I'm going to be playing it as a portable device more than I will connected to my TV.
That's what I thought too, but I play it more as connected to my TV than I do as a portable device. Yeah.
We'll have to see.
Chris, what about you, pal?
I've been pretty busy. I've been playing some stuff. So I wanted to get some more stuff for my Switch. So I picked up it's like a collection of, I guess, 2 games called Evoland. Has anyone heard of this?
Oh, I've heard of them. They're like, well, you go ahead.
Sure. So in Evoland, you basically in the first one you start with a very basic looking screen, like from like Nintendo NES era, and you basically have the ability to just move one direction, and there's a chest over there. You open that chest, it gives you the ability to go the other direction, and then so you get another chest over there that expands the screen, so then you can start going. And so you keep finding chests, and it continues to upgrade your like the different things that you can do.
That's really
and eventually,
interesting.
like you'll add sounds, and then music, and then the graphics will improve, and then you'll get like Zelda style combat, and then you'll get Final Fantasy style combat later, and or like Diablo style. So like it continues to upgrade, and like kind of as you progress through the game becomes more advanced.
That's really a very neat concept to use the actual sort of like aspects of the game as like devices within the game, which is cool.
Yeah, and I did finish that one. So yeah, it was only about 3 hours long, so pretty short, super short.
Okay.
But then they came out with another one that kind of takes that idea and changes it a little bit. So it's more of a full-fledged RPG, but instead of continuing to upgrade your graphics and stuff as you go along, you start kind of with 16-bit graphics, and then you fall into a portal where you go backwards to 8-bit graphics, and it's 50 years in the past. So it's kind of like Chrono Trigger mixed with the idea from the previous game.
God, I fucking love.
That's Katie's. Katie
Is that
often has
yeah.
that as her like her wake up music in the morning.
Oh, that's good wake up.
I wouldn't
music.
wake up to that. I would be like, oh, I should go to the fair.
So yeah, those are really cool. I'm still working on Evoland 2, but really cool concept. And at the end, I was kind of getting bored with the combat just because it was pretty like the game itself was basic, but the idea was really good.
Got it. That's really cool.
Segway.
So a little tiny insignificant event called BlizzCon happened a few weeks back, and we wanted to just discuss a few of the highlights and a few of the things that left us with good tastes in our mouths and bad tastes in our mouths. So maybe we can run it down sort of franchise by franchise first, and of course the really big announcements I feel like we're in Diablo land. So we got two big things. We got
Allison's excited.
We got some legitimate gameplay videos and a really great trailer for Diablo 4, and saw a lot more of Diablo Immortal, which was much maligned at last year's BlizzCon, but mostly because Diablo 4 didn't have any news. So how did we feel about it?
I mean,
About Diablo Immortal or Diablo 4?
About Diablo 4, sorry.
cinematic looked awesome. It was
so
gorgeous.
gross. It was so good.
Yeah, I've got physically disturbed by it at one point, and I was like, "Oh, this is kind of
Yeah,
Physically
that was awesome.
disturbed.
but great."
And it's cool because like I didn't really know much about Lilith because like I think she was in Diablo 2
Yeah.
as just a reskin of Andariel,
Sure.
but
Yeah, the giant like flesh curtain.
dude,
God.
Yeah.
I was when I was watching it, all I could think is like, okay, yeah, we're gonna get a game, but can I just have an anime? Like, can I just watch a whole little movie maybe of it? I don't know. I was more excited about the cinematic I feel than I will be about the game.
Have you watched the Castlevania anime?
I'm actually doing that right now.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm like 4 episodes in. It's good.
Yeah. Nice.
I had a conversation basically with one of my coworkers about the same thing where I kind of wish Blizzard would make just entire movies with like their cinematic.
They did. They made a World of Warcraft movie.
I really
Everybody
liked
hated
it. I
They
liked
did not.
it.
Somebody did. They didn't.
I thought
Okay.
it was
They
pretty
licensed
good.
it, and it was fine.
good.
But like,
It's fine.
but like, if Blizzard decided to do like a whole thing, I think it'd be super cool. And like using like the CGI that they use instead of like
Yeah, their
actual
graphics
live.
engine. Yo, it was very realistic. I was not
Oh my
convinced
gosh.
that those weren't real people for like a few points in that.
Yeah.
I think like that's the thing about Blizzard, and what Blizzard has done well in their games is they build the lore and they build the story, and they have this
sure.
gorgeous world that you want to live in and you want to know more
Maybe not
about.
live in.
I don't want to live there.
Yeah.
I don't think I
There's
want to
a lot
live
of
in
death.
Sanctuary.
Only if I'm
I'm
pretty shitty
down.
place.
I'm just saying, I'm down.
only if I'm a Nephilim.
But like that's what they do really well, and that's why I'm I'm a little put off when they kind of sacrifice their story sometimes. So I'm hopeful by this cinematic. Like, I really think it's gorgeous. I just hope the game is where the cinematic was.
Allison, did you take a look at the gameplay at all?
I did a bit, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what did you think about that?
I mean, it looked good. I don't think I had enough to really go on as far as how they're going to progress the gameplay is the big thing. Like, they showed, at least from what I saw a lot of just like how the mechanics cast and things like that. And it's like, okay, that's super, but like, tell me more about the game itself and progressing and the things that bothered me last time. Like, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Dan, go ahead.
So yeah, I was going to talk about the gameplay stuff because it does look kind of interesting. I think that it's interesting they're bringing back. They have like the druid classes, which was pretty.
Yeah,
cool.
that's definitely a Diablo 2 throwback.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, they all are. They've done these before.
Yeah, definitely have. But it was pretty neat to see that make a return. And the barbarian and the sorceress stuff. Apparently, there's 2 more that we don't know of yet, so we don't know what those are going to be.
Yeah, I guess what I meant by that was like, to me, it felt like the druid was there as another nod to, hey, we're really thinking about Diablo 2 here and not Diablo 3. Like we didn't see a Return of the Witch Doctor, and we didn't see a Return of the Witch Doctor for a reason.
You know, I told the witch doctor that I was in love with you.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, and he said, ooh, ee, ooh, ah, ah, ting, tang, walla, walla, bing, bang. Ooh, ee, ooh, ah, ah, ting, tang, walla, walla, bing, bang. And I was like, what am I paying you for?
So, and Dan, did you think that the gameplay also sort of like reflected a return to earlier days or
yes,
not?
I think it felt a little further away. It felt a little bit more... It felt a little bit more like the old style top-down RPGs, like, because in Diablo 3 was a little swingy and explodey, and like people would go flying and stuff would, like, crazy things would happen. I felt like a little bit more of like the death cinematics were a little bit cool, interesting. But I mean, it's still really early. Like I feel like there's not a whole lot. There's not a whole lot for us to kind of pull out of it yet, aside from, hey, here's these 3 classes, here's a few things they can do. Look, he turns into a bear, you know, that kind of stuff.
I feel like this could just be me not remembering Diablo 3's interface correctly, but I feel like the interface on the gameplay videos that I saw for the multiple classes are less busy.
That's very true. Yeah,
far more simplified, which I like, because there's so much you can do behind the scenes, which I would assume extends to 4 with, you know, the way you build your character.
Yeah,
I appreciate like the simplicity of 4 or 5 buttons you can hit there, because I mean, depending on how you build your character, there's a lot you can do with 5 buttons you can mash.
Right. And I think the other thing there is that I'm hoping that a sort of pared down UI is indicative of a focus on like immersion and therefore story, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what they're promising is more of a Diablo 2-esque kind of game, is what they said.
Instead of hit all the things.
Yeah.
Well, and I like hit all the things. I think they would do well to take a page out of Diablo 1, where sometimes graphically it was a little bit under spoken. Like I feel like a lot of the animations in Diablo 1 would just be like the skeleton crumples and like the little lightning flashes, especially like the early abilities, they weren't that showy, and it sort of gave you the sense of like, oh, I really am just like, I may be slightly more powerful than these monsters, but I really am just like a little insignificant thing compared to this giant evil that I'm going up against. And so I hope they managed to get that sort of feel of like danger and of going up against a higher power against you. Yeah, I always felt in Diablo 3 that I was the most powerful thing. And that didn't necessarily make me feel more excited about the gameplay.
Yeah, it was definitely a loot experience.
I mean, all Diablos are loot experiences.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, but Diablo 3, I mean, I didn't play a lot of the others, but I kind of have to agree with Ian here. Like, you get to a point where you're just super powerful and you just crush everything.
But I mean, we love that,
and then at that point, like, what's the?
But we love that in Doom.
Maybe you didn't feel like. Maybe you felt like you got there too fast, or
exactly. Like there wasn't there wasn't
You didn't
really
have to
a
work
build up
for
to
it.
that. It was just immediately there, exactly, and so it didn't feel as meaningful. Any
Never
other
want to
things?
get there too fast.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Any other things about Diablo 4, Chris? Yeah.
I really hope that they bring back more of the skill trees that they kind of got away from in Diablo 3. I felt like that really kind of like took away from the customization because everyone pretty much was building the same thing every time.
Right. And playing Grim Dawn has really made me understand how much value a skill tree can add to a looter like that.
Yeah, Chris,
Yeah.
can you explain a little bit what that is?
So a skill tree, basically, you have to progress down the tree, so you have to get one portion of the tree. So you have to get, like, a smash attack, and then you can get, like, a super smash attack, or instead get, like, a whirlwind attack if you're a barbarian type of thing. And,
Which you
but
are,
you
of
have to,
course.
like, go, of course. But you have to keep going down the tree to progress farther and get the more powerful abilities. So it allowed more customization, and it kind of made the character feel more like your own instead of just a cookie cutter that everyone else is playing.
Right. Whereas in Diablo 3, everybody has everything, which means it's all been min-maxed to where there is the best build or the best build with this certain set of gear or what have you.
Which there's min-maxing with skill trees, but it allows for more flexibility, I think, because you don't always have to be min-maxed, I guess.
Yeah. You can do your goof build, and that's your goof build. Very cool. Did we all also pay attention to the Overwatch 2 announcement?
Did?
Yeah.
Did.
It had a nice cinematic.
Yeah.
Does
I think we're gonna be
anyone
able to say
like
this
this?
for everything.
It's definitely interesting to see, like, to acknowledge how big Blizzard is, where, like, to me at least, the Overwatch 2 announcement seemed overshadowed by Diablo 4. Like, they have these two giant tentpole games, and this huge game seems overshadowed by this other one, but
Well, see, I don't know that Overwatch 2 qualifies as a huge game. It's a huge title, but I don't know. Like, looking at it, it feels more like like you said, like a incremental upgrade. I
yeah.
thought somebody said that. Maybe I read that somewhere, but it feels a little bit like an incremental upgrade rather than because they're just adding new features to what's already there.
So it was very reminiscent to me of what Fortnite just did, where Fortnite had the black hole, and they basically, for the new Fortnite that they redid everything. They said we're kind of restarting how everything works. It's a different map. It's different like game mechanics. It's different like vehicles. Your characters kind of do different things. And I feel like that's kind of the same trend that they're following, where they're like, okay, here's these new modes. There's more PvE stuff, and there's like this new multiplayer. You versus me, push the big funny robot back and forth thing called Push. But
Which is basically like OG Team Fortress 2,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
But did Fortnite make you pay for it?
They they did not. They just said,
Exactly.
"Hey, here's more stuff.
Right, and that's the problem I'm having, like swallowing an Overwatch 2, is the game is meant to be built upon. It's a
Right.
game that is a base, and they've released new game types and
Yeah,
had
so
you play
why-
them. So why do we need a whole new game?
Well, cause money. I think
that's what I think.
yeah, it boils down to an earnings call, 6 months ago at Blizzard, where EA was like, you're not quite cutting the mustard on this one, guys. Time to release a new game. Yeah, sorry, Activision. I think maybe the other thing is that if we really look back to the development of Overwatch, originally it was meant to be sort of an open world RPG. And so this increased focus on story and this increased focus on character and on these sort of mission types, I wonder if that is sort of an extension and sort of a return to what the original vision was. And I'm hoping, or I'm thinking that maybe that's what they're trying to get at, is this more of a feeling of a world and story building than just let's play a competitive esport.
I think that would be totally great if it was just implemented in what's there. The fact that this is a whole separate thing, but they say you'll be able to play with your friends on Overwatch 1.
Yeah,
it's
that
like
feels dirty.
you're literally just forcing me to buy your new game for the story mode that you probably should have waited to release Overwatch 1 for, but you didn't want to because you wanted to make the money faster. So you probably pushed that game too fast and then decided you wanted to add this on the back end. And then you decided to charge us for the same game again.
Full price is definitely not worth it for just a story mode for me, unless it's a damn good story mode. Because Overwatch is a multiplayer game. It is a multiplayer game.
Yeah, it's a multiplayer game. I think about the price, I would be scandalized if they dropped it for more than $40. I mean, that was the original price of Overwatch 1, right?
No, it was 60.
It was 60.
Was it
It
60?
was 40. I bought it for 40.
Really?
Yeah, I bought it for
Pretty
40
sure.
and it was pretty soon
don't
after
remember.
launch.
It was a
Maybe
while
I got
ago.
a special edition. Hold
I
on.
think I heard that part of the reason why they're charging for it is because they had to do a lot of changes to the engine to support. And that's why like the characters look a little different too. Like,
I was gonna
they
say
look a
they
little
did-
more plasticky.
Yeah, they did look a little like action figure-y, which is
Yeah.
how I guess that makes sense because they were little. If they had to add more, like because if there's like the PvE stuff, there's more things happening, so you would need to kind of pull back a little bit on the individual design and make the big thing kind of more the big thing.
I don't think anyone was complaining about the character design. I thought it was stylized like on purpose. I liked the way that the characters looked in Overwatch 1. If they were going to do that with any game, I don't understand why we don't have WoW 2. Because that needs a new...
Because WoW is still making enough money. I mean,
But-
that's what that comes down to.
Is WoW
Well-
making enough money? That's actually a
They
question.
still have a lot of subscribers.
But
Classic's doing all right, probably.
Right. Like we have WoW
It is.
Classic for the people who want the classic version. The game that needs a rebuild for the engine because it just can't support any graphics, not even good graphics, just like any graphics, is really WoW. Like Overwatch didn't need this, in my opinion. I don't think. I don't know. Maybe I'm
They
in
could've-
minority.
They could have just released it as more content.
Yeah.
Like they
I
could have
would have
done
played
it.
it, but like, yeah, it kind of feels meh.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the esports market is probably quite a bit more lucrative than the
Well,
MMO
PvE 's
market
not
today.
really-
The MMO
Yeah.
market is continually
PvE 's not
shrinking.
really
Yeah, PvE doesn't work as that
an
though.
esport, really.
And that's the big thing about it. It's basically that's why it feels like they're kind of trying to make us spend more money on just a story. Like you were saying before. Like that seems
It's got to be a good story.
kind of that's kind of blizzardy for them to do that to us, but
Like, I trust them to put out a good quality product. I don't really have any question as to the quality of the product. I just like there's a why behind it. It's like I signed up for anyone who lives in an area where like you're near Comcast or Charter. I have Charter internet access.
welcome
I
to
signed up
Country
for
Time
service.
with Will, everybody.
Well, I signed up for them, and I pay for service. Okay. Their marketing department is out of control and constantly is like, hey, would you also like this? If you like the internet, maybe you'd also like a landline phone. And that's a little bit what this feels like. It's like you like Overwatch, maybe you'd also like this Overwatch. And I just
Overwatch with
don't-
a story. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't know that it is a necessary addition.
Got it. Speaking of story-based stuff, Allison, did you pay attention to the new WoW expansion announcements, the Shadowlands thing?
Oh, sure. If I planned to play WoW again, I would be excited about it.
Ooh.
Maybe if they redid the graphics.
Well, so what makes you excited, Allison, and what's keeping you from thinking about re-enlisting, as it were?
Well, my reason for not re-enlisting is going to be in part 2 of our podcast, so I'll save that.
Okay. Cool.
But I definitely think that they might be kind of going back to some of the old school things I really loved about the game looking at it. I like the way the story's going. I don't know, although I think I don't know if everyone's watched it, and Chris, you probably would have the best opinion on this. I feel like they made Sylvanas too powerful, which is saying something
They
because I love
did.
her.
So, I mean, it was an intro cinematic. So she basically goes up to Ice Crown, just
And
waltzes
just, like,
into Ice Crown,
Boops.
waltzes in, fights Bolvar, who's the new
Yeah.
Lich King.
Yeah, and kind of like Lich King, the nice version.
Yeah, I mean he's like he's
He's
like
Lich
your
King
cool,
light.
your cool buddy Lich King.
Hey guys, welcome.
Hey, guys,
hey,
I'm
Ross
gonna
Party,
lick the king
Hungers
of
is great.
Pounded.
Pounds.
And like he's still kind of a Billy Badass though, and like she just goes and beats his ass, and then takes his crown and breaks it.
Yep.
Good
Probably
bad.
for like the enchantment mats, I guess. But like, how are you gonna do that? Like, how did
Yeah,
she
that
get
was-
that powerful? In what? I
That's
guess in what
crazy.
world? The World of Warcraft, she did. But
In what world?
But that's kind of like the lore piece I was talking about with WoW, where it's like when it breaks something too much, or it doesn't fit, or it doesn't feel right, it really hurts the game experience for me. And I love her. Like she's a badass. I love her. She's like my favorite character. But yeah, that definitely bothered me. But that was the only part of the expansion that bothered me.
yeah, I mean, I think if there was more build up to how she got that, like how she gained that extra power, fine. But like, it was just kind of like. I mean, granted, I haven't been paying attention to WoW since I stopped playing it, but like, I still like the lore a lot, and I didn't realize that she was that powerful either.
I'm sure that they will now like do a soft retcon to make sure that everybody feels good about the lore.
Yeah. But as far as like the content they're releasing, the expansion on what they've already put out, and the kind of getting back to making your class feel special and
Right.
not so cookie cutter to the person next to you, the stuff that they're doing there
Like in
with
Diablo 4,
I don't know what they called
hopefully.
Yeah. Right. Do you feel like they're going back to a less cookie cutter character creation thing, similar to the skill trees Chris was talking about earlier?
Kind of. I mean, we're not getting fully there from what I've seen, but it is a little better with the class customization that it feels like they're bringing and stuff in this expansion. So it kind of is a wait and see thing.
I think I saw
Got
they're
it.
bringing totems back for shamans,
Yeah, like stuff like that, like
and that's
silly
awesome.
things.
Like they should have
cool.
those. That was great.
They should have those. That was something that was unique about their character, and it made sense for them. And it's stuff like that. And like, this is stupid, but tree form for druid. I was just like, that should be something the druid has. And when they started taking that stuff and ripping it off the characters, they just became bland for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's there.
Okay, so I want to roll. I want to roll Hearthstone, HOTS, and Diablo Immortal kind of into one little last section, so we can wrap this particular part up. How do we feel about any and or all of that?
I'm shocked that they're
CCGs are
still
down.
supporting bots.
Yeah, so am I. With HOTS, I'm a little surprised. By
It's kind of like it's a limp support. It's really like
Not support.
it's a
It's a
thing.
prize to be sure,
you
but
could
a
play it
welcome
if you wanted to.
It's still there, kind of.
Yeah, and
I mean,
they,
it's still a good game.
and
fun.
well,
It is.
that's
It's
the
a
problem.
good game.
It's a good game. They don't care about it. It's very clear. They've dropped all competitive play esports, and then they just kind of did what I thought they would do after that, which is stop really caring about that game and just
Right.
Because
doing
it didn't make any money.
right. They just didn't get the money back on it constantly like they wanted with the skins and things.
League is a hard nut to crack. I mean,
No, Dota is a hard nut to crack.
Dota's
so
a
is
hard nut to
Dota.
crack.
Yeah,
League,
Walnuts are
both of
different.
those.
Dota's
League
bigger
got
than
there. League got there. It's one of those things of nothing can really compete with those two giants in this field.
Got
I
it.
guess-
Like,
Any-
it's
sorry.
like MMOs competing with WoW.
Yeah.
Yeah. As far as Hearthstone, I mean,
Why?
they said they were releasing more dragons.
Yay!
cool.
Hopefully, Priest will be good again. Because last time Priest had dragons, they were good, but that was the last time. Well, and Shadow Farm, but I digress.
And they didn't talk at all about Warcraft 3 or 4.
Well, okay. So the other thing about Hearthstone is that Hearthstone is also getting a an auto chess variant game style where you can like
I've
get in
never
with
played
8 players.
auto chess.
It's I actually haven't played it either, but from what I understand, it's pretty interesting and competitive and kind of very strategic. And then the announcement for what was the other thing that you guys just said?
Warcraft 3 Reforged
Yeah,
didn't really.
the
get
only
anything.
thing that happened with that is that everybody who went to BlizzCon got into the beta. So I think they continue to broaden that beta test, and we'll probably get more news on that as we move forward. I also wanted to mention before we leave this particular section, just the Hong Kong protests that were happening outside BlizzCon. So this was a dust up after a major Hearthstone competitor was permabanned, and then they rolled that back, but they also took their prize money from the tournament they had just won after they said something in support of the protesters in Hong Kong, which was a serious gaffe for Blizzard.
Didn't they give that back too?
I don't remember if they gave the winnings back, but I do know that they issued the apology. But yeah, the damage is done. I'm really disappointed in the company. I wish they are here. They are an American company, and I feel like they should be more in support of people who are fighting for their right to be free than they would be concerned about money. But
and we should probably talk a little bit more about that in the second half of the podcast here.
Yeah.
Dan's only saying that because he needs to take a bathroom break.
Yeah, dude, it's juice. It's going through me.
He's doing that kindergarten thing where he's just like,
all right, Dan. Okay, Dan. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up there for the first half, because Dan's also wrapping it up just to keep in his chair. So we'll be back in just a minute. Stay with us. And welcome back to the second half of the GameBrew podcast. How's the Cidre sitting with everybody?
I'm switching to beer.
It is.
Ooh, too close for cider. He's switching to beer.
Way to diss on National Apple Cider Day.
Yeah.
He
just celebrates differently, okay?
Yeah,
it's like celebrating Christmas with a dreidel.
Hey,
yeah, you do you, but whatever.
Okay. All right.
It's good. It's going through me. That's why I had to leave to pee real quick, and then again. I think it's the mix of like being alcohol, so it's a diuretic, and also being apple, so it's also a diuretic. So it just keeps,
super sugary, so it's just like
I have to pee so much.
Yeah, that's for sure a thing, but it's tasty.
Yeah,
I mean, it's keeping me refreshed.
I feel very refreshed.
It's good. It's not my, it's not my cup of beer.
Not my.
Chris, do you feel like it would be, because it's a cider? Like, are you one of those people who ciders have to be hot? Like, would this be better if it were a hot cider?
No,
beer?
I think it'd be better if it was less sweet.
Okay.
Like, I've had Bold Rock. I've had their
I like Bold Rock.
Their IPA one that's like pretty not super sweet.
Well, I appreciate you taking one for the team so I can drink with you, even though you hate it.
I don't hate it. I just I don't hate it. I just would prefer not to keep drinking sweet things.
It's too sweet for him.
This one's too sweet.
It's too sweet.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the second half topic, which is, how do the goals of gaming companies affect our enjoyment of games or the experience that we have with them? And so the first question that I wanted to throw out there was, isn't the goal of every gaming company to make money? Or is that just like cynical me talking?
Well, yes.
Yes.
I'd like to say, and the goal of any company is, I'm going to put on my corporate hat real quick.
I like that your corporate hat is also a GameBrew hat.
It's true.
Dan, where did that tie come from? Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry. Let me put this on. So the goal of any company is to make a profit. And if
thanks, John Madden.
Yeah, you're welcome. And if you don't, but that's the grand scheme is we need to have a thing that will give us more income to do more things, to pay our staff, to pay our executives, to pay everything that needs to happen so that we can make more stuff. In a perfect world, so that we can make more things. But it turns into this whole people making more money just to make more money thing there.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously that's the goal of a business, but like being able to, everyone needs money. Everyone needs money to survive. I think there's a tipping point, like you said, where it becomes more about making money and less about making a piece of art or like a quality product, and more just, it's the difference between going to like TGI Fridays versus like the bar down the street. The bar down the street's a business, but they're not trying to open up restaurants everywhere. They're just trying to, be a place to hang out or something.
Right.
Whereas TGI Fridays is solely to make money. It's not trying to be that buddy down the street. It's just trying to get your money, and it's trying to cut as many corners as possible.
Yeah.
So it can maximize its profits.
I think that's kind of what this topic is for me in a lot of ways. So it's what Dan said and what Chris said kind of together. It's I understand that the point of any company is to make money, but there is a reason for the soulless corporation title. And when a company becomes soulless, I no longer want to support it, because that means that they're taking money and valuing that over humanity. And that's where I have to draw the line. And that can come in a lot of ways. It can come in how they treat their employees. It can come in how they treat the consumer. It could come in how they treat the environment. Or, there's so many pieces of that puzzle that can just make a corporation less, like, I think Google is a good example of like one who I don't despise, but they are huge and they make a lot of profit compared to some of the others. But yeah, that's what it is for me.
So a couple of things. First, I want to just throw out there, if you didn't know, that Google actually works with the government of China to suppress all searches except for those that the government of China wants to see in China. So that's a thing to put in your pipe and smoke. And then the other question I wanted to ask was, does this recent Hong Kong dust up with Blizzard bring you to that point of, okay, now Blizzard is a soulless corporation, they're not worth my time or my money?
Well, I didn't know that about Google, so that's actually interesting for me. But I that's honestly why I was going to play WoW Classic around Christmas. I was waiting for it to just kind of settle in a little bit because it was too crazy on launch. And I do not plan to buy it now, and I don't plan to play it.
And it's because of the Hong Kong thing.
It really is.
Really?
Yeah.
So what about that really got to you? And then I want to hear Dan's input.
So for me, when I saw that, it was really, it was overkill, I guess, is what I want to say. It was, I've seen a lot of people say a lot of things at different events, and it was so dramatic that 10% of their investors are owned, like Tencent actually is the company that Blizzard has as an investor, that they were more worried about those investors and the market in China than they were about how this was going to blow up in their face. And it could have been handled better. They jumped really hard on it, and it really turned me off to them as a whole, because I've been watching the protests like pretty severely over there. So it's something I guess I'm really sensitive about too. So that doesn't help. I'm not going to lie. I know I'm very touchy on this one. So it definitely triggered me in a lot of ways, but it was just bashing this one little moment for this person who thought this was his opportunity to do a little something and say something that could, at least put it out there, because that's the big thing about this China thing is it's really oppressed. And it didn't get a lot of news until it exploded to the point it has. So that was something big that he had a moment where he could say something about it, and it wasn't going to be silenced. And I thought that was kind of great in a lot of ways. And yeah, it just bothered me too much. The fact that they're taking money over humanity that seriously, I can't support them.
Yeah, Dan.
And I think that's an interesting thing, because especially in gaming, because we still like to view gaming as an art form as well as being something that is entertaining and a money-making company. It is about profitability, just like anything else that you spend money on. And I think that's kind of why, like, we spent the first half talking about BlizzCon and about that stuff. And while I think I can say as a group, we at the GameBrew definitely support like free speech, and the protests in Hong Kong are definitely important, and we support all those people who are voicing their opinions and are trying to bring to light all of the things that are happening there. But the thing to still remember, I feel, is that there are still artists, game developers, and people who are working at this company who are still trying to put things out, but the company, like the guys who wear the suits and make all the money, are the ones who are putting all these bad things on them. So I think that while we still talk about it because it's good to talk about, hey, there's these new things coming out and they're going to be really cool, and we're looking forward to them, while still not condoning the acts of the corporate entity in and of itself.
I want to respond to that really quick, Chris, and then I'll come to you. I'm sorry, buddy. Dan, what I would want to respond with is just to say that the idea that just because we work for a company, we should cede our speech to that company is uncomfortable for me, because we almost all, and increasingly in the States, many of us work for large companies. And so the fact that, like, we kind of feel okay that the company is the one who has a voice while you're like wearing the company t-shirt and you're not allowed to talk about things that they might affect them, makes sense to us because we all swim in that ocean. But at the same time, I do want to push back a little and say, like, why does it have to be that way? We all collectively accept that the company can regulate our speech when we work for that company because that's the way the law is written. Doesn't mean that's the way it should be morally.
No, I agree. Yeah. I'm just saying it's important to remember that there are still it's not the developers and it's not all of the developers. It's like, it's not them. Yeah. It's like the company, it's the corporation.
I don't know that that's inherently a bad thing. I mean, corporations have a right to protect their own interests as well. That's like, I don't wear my school badge and go out to the bar and get shit faced.
I would argue that's because you're a public employee, though. You don't work for a company.
Well,
you work for the government.
Even if I worked for, I worked for Best Buy at some point, I didn't go out drinking in, that shirt. That was something a company didn't want us to do, to go out and be asses, wearing my Best Buy shirt and piss off the community, and then have people not want to come in and buy computers from us and that
Allison,
sort of thing, or whatever.
Yeah, sorry. Did you want to add something here, and then we'll get to Chris?
Well, what I was going to say is to kind of just build the whole picture. Blizzard as a whole stands for a lot of values, company values, that they negated in this move. And I think that's the big thing, is that it wasn't just that they're a company who's silencing a voice so harshly. On their statue that's like in the middle of their corporate area, there's the statue that's really famous, and it says, "Think globally, every voice matters." And one of the employees actually covered those up with paper the day this happened, because clearly they don't actually think that. And it's the company you're working for that you think believes these things, because that's what they've put out there and that's what they've told you. And it feels like it's huge for them. And then this happens, I think, was the big thing. And one of the employees tweeted that, and then a bunch of them went and protested at it. And it was a huge thing of like, are they going to have repercussions kind of thing? Which ultimately I don't think they did, but I don't know. It's just kind of, it feels off.
Yeah.
Sure. Chris.
Oh, sorry.
So I was going to kind of move things in a different direction and talk. You mentioned that Tencent owns a large portion, not a large portion, it's 5% of Activision Blizzard. They also own 100% of Riot Games that makes League of Legends.
Yep.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Grinding Gears Games, 80%, which makes Path of Exile.
Yep.
They own 40% of Epic.
Yep.
They own 11.5% of Bluehole, which makes PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds.
Correct. Yeah.
They own 5% of Activision Blizzard, 5% of Paradox, and 5% of Ubisoft.
Yeah.
So they're literally the largest video game company in the world. This is
It's a Chinese company.
a Chinese company that owns
That just buys companies. Yeah.
all these other companies.
Yep.
Which is it's incredible how much they're taking over all of these great game companies, and
And it's
pushing their
sorry.
influence into it, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting too that like one of the topics I've been trying to kind of like kicking around in my head is that we're turning into like a world of gaming where the giants could die because of this influence of like big money in gaming. Like there's been big money, but the larger the money gets, the more sort of disconnected they become from the actual consumers who buy those games.
Yeah.
So maybe this is a good way to segue sort of away from Blizzard and Hong Kong, because we've dug into that pretty hard, and to talk about whether or not smaller companies have the same goals as the larger ones. Think about like a Chucklefish or a Devolver, and how that affects the product that we get from smaller kinds of companies.
I mean, I think in overall, they're obviously, again, out for the same goal. They're trying to make money. But I think that there's less of an emphasis a lot of the times. I have heard kind of mixed things about Chucklefish just because of some of the way... Like, I mean, I know that the guy that made that farming simulator game that we don't talk about...
Nice.
Yeah. He's left. And is just kind of going to start publishing his own games.
Right, because Chucklefish was basically like taking people's work for free, and sometimes even people who were like underage to work in some states. They were like kind of using them as like digital interns.
Right, but I think overall, like it's the developers there. I feel, or like at least the developers that are working with those publishers are. They're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and just trying to make a great game, you know? Mm-hmm. They're not as corrupted, I guess, by the whole corporate life.
Right. And it's
and like
maybe
that's not to say
sorry.
that like all the big game company developers are like that. But I think that, like I said, more bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
What I wanted to say was that the other thing about small developers is like they're still out for money, but the motivating factor for them is that as many people as possible latch onto their game. And so in that sense, they're still out for money, but they're also accountable to the everyday purchaser, because that's what they're trying to influence, right? They're not worried about corporate. They're worried about making
they can't absorb
something.
a mistake like that either.
Yeah, they're worried about something that's going to sell to gamers out there.
Yeah, I think that's the ultimate thing. And I mean, not to go back to this, but it's just an easy example right now is with Blizzard. Like they looked at the Chinese market and said, we can't lose that. And if we don't smack hard, then we will lose that because they've banned over less, right?
Yeah.
Which they definitely chose a side in that moment. Whereas like the indie gamer, they're trying to just get people to them, so they're really connected to the person in front of them. Whereas they don't have that huge market they're really worried about. They just have like really face-to-face people in a lot of ways, or the general consumer who's reviewing their game, or those kinds of things. So they're really more connected and grounded in that way.
And it's really interesting that all this has been like this situation was levied against Blizzard, but it didn't seem to bother anyone for Activision. Because they just sold the most, like they've sold the most copies of any game ever, I think, with Modern Warfare.
Yeah.
And that's the same company.
True.
Yeah, I don't think they're seen as the same company in a lot of ways.
I think a really unique thing about the differences in goals between like a larger, like Electronic Arts and then Chucklefish or like Bob's Basement Gaming, whatever.
What is Bob's Basement Gaming?
I don't know.
There probably is a Bob's Basement.
It's a thing.
Shout out to Bob's Basement
They
Gaming.
did
We
Trash
love
Picking
you.
Simulator 2019.
But the fundamental goal is the same. You want to be successful and you want to make money. That's why you start a business. But I think that you're absolutely onto something in that their goal is they share a common goal in let's get some market share. They're not going to take away a substantial portion of the market share from some big boy competitor out there. But I think what's really unique and special about the business goals they can set are I mean, in today's world, we're so saturated with different gaming companies. You could literally set a goal of, I want to build this up enough to where EA buys me out, and then I go retire. Or
It's like
do you know what I mean?
it's like
no longer is the goal to like, I want to be
startup
the
mentality.
big boy. You know, I just want to get absorbed by the big boy.
or it's like the classic like band thing. It's like, oh hey guys, we started this band. Do we want to get big enough that a label comes and signs us, and then we have to do a bunch of albums that they pay us for, or do we want to keep doing it for the music?
Yeah, well, and that's one of the other things that I wanted to talk about, actually. We have the opposite problem in classical music, which is the field that I work in, where there really isn't a lot of money in classical music, and we have this incredibly advanced art structure where there are all these people creating all this kinds of brand new art, but there isn't a market for it. There aren't people out there, quote unquote, purchasing or experiencing this art, and so it sort of slips under mainstream culture in a way that is the opposite of gaming. There's all this money in it. There's all this advertisement. And so a lot of people get to experience it and sort of enmesh themselves in it in that way. And so I wonder if it were the opposite, like, would we still be gamers?
Like if it was more for the art, so then for the...
if it was more for the art than for the money, would we still be in it?
Well, I think that's why we play games.
Well, I mean, I think it would be a little bit different.
artistic.
I think we'd see a little bit more of the type of game that Ian likes, which is walking simulators or like Zork-esh storytelling things than we
We
would.
wouldn't see like loot boxes, and
Right.
we wouldn't see wasted money type things, you know, for consumers.
Yeah, monetized skins. Allison, yeah.
Okay, so as a person who plays a lot of games that are purchasable and are just like, I made this game for me, here it is for you all also. That's
Sure.
a lot of visual novels. So I've played a lot of those. I would still be in it for that reason. Like, I like weird and out there, and I made this for me, and I don't care if you like it, but if you do, here it is. Like, I'm down for that. I don't know. I would way be in it still.
One of the things I will say that I do appreciate about the fact that corporations have to make money off of us, whether that's people who are willing to spend money on stupid monetizations like loot boxes, and I do think that they're stupid because they don't affect the gameplay, you know. But I do appreciate the fact that some of those companies use that to continue to create really good, really engaging, really fun products that I enjoy playing. So, I mean, it is a necessary evil, but I do think it's important. Like, the Blizzard thing is just a huge, like, foot in their own mouth. You know, you have to maintain your ethical and social responsibilities to your core market. And, I mean, otherwise, you're just a jackass and no one wants to play your games. But,
Just a
but I mean,
jackass in a
those
tie.
things are important, and they do have a place. And if other people are willing to pay $100 for a skin on Steam or something or whatever, so that I can keep playing Counter-Strike or whatever, or play the new Counter-Strike, fine. You know, thanks for supporting the game. I'm not going to do that, but thanks for the donation. You know.
I just want to note something too. I personally, I'm not going to bash anyone for playing Blizzard games. I want to put that out
Oh
there.
yeah, this is good. I have another point to make after this. Yeah, go.
Because I think it's a personal decision for everyone on how they feel about this, and my opinion isn't anyone else's opinion. And like I said, I'm really sensitive to this, and it just really bothers me that they say they stand for one thing, and then they so hard smashed that with a paladin hammer and didn't
can't
give
do
a
that.
shit and bubble
Can't do
hearthed
that.
out of it. Like, no, that's not okay. So for me, like, this is my stance on it, but like, play their games if you want to. I don't think this should dissuade you from enjoying something you enjoy. But yeah.
She's not going to be a vegan and tell you not to eat hamburgers.
Oh,
That's
shit,
right.
no. Shit, no.
So I think the only thing to add there is remember that you are the one who holds the power. Video games companies exist to make money. They make money from us. So if you don't like the way that a game is, or you don't like the way that a game company is acting, you have the power to put them out of business by not purchasing their shit. You
Damn
just have
straight.
to not get sucked in by marketing. So keep that in mind and vote with your dollar.
I
the
don't
same
like to
thing
buy
with-
EA games for that reason.
It's the same thing with like people that don't want to eat at Chick-fil-A because of how they their opinions on I guess gay marriage and homosexual relationships. It's like if you don't want,
chicken on Sunday.
If you don't believe if you don't like what they say, then don't spend money there.
Yeah, if you don't think gay people are people, then you should go eat at Chick-fil-A. Otherwise,
Go eat at Popeyes.
Otherwise, go eat at Popeyes.
Okay, so the final question that I wanted to ask is, if you could make a gaming company, what would be like your number one goal for the company? So would it be like, I want to focus on creativity, or I want to focus on making money?
More boobs. Wait, I'm sorry.
Wait, what?
What?
All right.
Huh? I don't need to. Just more boobs in video games. I think we've approached this time in video games where there's less boobs than there used to be. We need to bring the boobs back.
That does remind me. Episode 69 is our next episode, and I just want you all to know that that is a thing.
It's gonna be a banger.
Oh, dude, episode 69 is gonna be so tight. Pun intended. Pun intended.
Oh boy, it's not
I think
a family
Allison's
podcast.
going to be absent for this one because this just seems like
You
something...
can't. We actually need you for episode 69.
I know
you're
that's
fired.
what I'm
Sorry.
worried about, and like I'm a delicate virgin.
Oh, of
And
course.
so I'm gonna-
Yes.
Okay.
We all are.
Whoa! Hey.
Hold on.
None of us have
I
children.
think Molly left a window open. I smell bullshit. I'll be right.
Oh, come on.
I think no. If our parents are listening, yes, we have all never had sex, and we are all very, very good people. But also
And now
now
stop
stop listening. Are you kidding me? Oh my god! Yes.
Chris, what is your number one goal for your gaming company going to be?
Oh man. To make money, put out a quality product, and not be shitty people.
That is three goals.
that's a
The
good
first
goal.
one was make money. Roger that, Chris. Allison, what about you?
So this is actually something I've wanted to do my whole life.
Oh, whoa.
So for me, I just want to be able to sustain myself in an art I love. And that would be my company goal. I know make art that supports me. So I do need to make money. I accept that. But I just want to put out a product I love and hopefully people like it.
Wait,
I love it.
I also can I add an
yeah.
addendum to that because I want to know what the name of your video game company would be.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead.
think
Come on, I'm
about
not
it.
talented enough to get there.
Think about it.
Okay, I'll think about it.
Maybe,
I'll get
maybe
back
we
to
can
you.
ask our listeners. Will, what is your number one goal for your company?
I would want to make games that I would enjoy playing and that I can really get into and that I could have as the CEO of that company a viable opinion on beyond just managing the people of the company. I would want to do story-driven games that... Well, I would just want to differentiate myself from everybody else by having really high-quality, story-driven narrative games.
Got it.
Kind
Cool.
of like
Telltale Games.
kind of like Telltale did. You know, that was their stick, and they were damn good. At
You
it.
know what? They
that worked
failed
out
as a
really
company.
well. Yeah, you can fail. It's gonna be great.
That's right. Will now has a corner on that market.
The difference is we would have different gameplay styles.
No, guys, you get to
The
make
same
choices,
shit
and it's
for
a
every
story-based game. But there's no zombies in this one. That's what's different.
Yeah, guys, there's no zombies.
All right. Well, GameBrew
Ian, what's
listeners.
yours?
Oh, mine?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Mine
Jeez.
would be just goal number one would be break rules. Like I want to make games that break rules. I want to make story games that are all about
This is a video game, but you have to play it on a tree.
yeah, like honestly that's the shit that I would want to do. Like just out of the box shit.
Takeshi's Challenge. Play it. Continue.
Okay, I will. I definitely will. But that would be my mantra would be break rules.
Cool.
And with that, that's gonna wrap up our podcast. If GameBrew listeners out there in the GameBrewverse, if you have ideas for Allison's company name, you can send them to us on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, at thegamebrew@gmail.com.
Please, I'm not creative.
We love to hear from you. And that's gonna do it for us. So say goodnight, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. Allison, I know what it's gonna be.